People is not only the engine of the company, but the heart and soul of the company. So people refers to who are we as an organization, the core values, but then getting people who are aligned with those values, bringing people on board who align with those and will show up with those on a daily basis, internally and externally. So it's values. It's how do we behave? How do we show up at work? How do we think? How do we treat one another? How do we treat our clients? What's important to us? So values is a big piece of that. The other piece of that would be structure. Structure also, as Peter Drucker once very aptly put it, he said, simply structure exists to execute strategy. Strategy exists to achieve our mission and vision. It's really the long-term dream of the company, the why we exist, the North Star. That's our strategy. So structure is there for us to execute our strategy. And structure are those specific seats in the organization and the roles with those seats to make the strategy happen. So structure is really about accountability and clarity for team members. So the structure piece of that. Right people, right seats is the famous mantra of Jim Collins. When we have the right structure to get us to that strategy, we've defined that structure, we've defined the roles in the seat, which are strengths or unique abilities, whatever you want to call them. Then it's finding those right people, right seats. And the right people would be those who fit our values. So the right people would be people who align, not perfectly, but 80% or more. The vast majority of what they do, how they behave, how they show up is in alignment with our core values. Those are their values. So right people, and then right seat would be those roles I'm expected to execute. Those are really in my wheelhouse. As Dan Sullivan would call them, unique abilities. Gallup calls them strengths. Do I get to do what I do best every day? So right people, values, right seat, doing what I do best. So that aligns with structure. And then to segue expectations, then focus in on that seat and clear expectations to connect the dots and giving me support, clarity, and then feedback as a team member so I can thrive in that seat. So I can help the company move forward and achieve our strategy. Performance expectations would be the key to a good, strong, healthy organization, and a people component and an operating system when working well tells us the company's doing well. It's that people have crystal clear expectations of what I'm accountable for, what's expected of me in terms of what are my roles, KPIs, what are those measurable outcomes, objective measurements around how am I doing, and those areas of measurement, objectivity, around KPIs, a measurable outcome or activity in my seat. It would be around our core values. A little subjectivity to that, but close enough to be able to give and get feedback. We have a ROC, which is a 90-day priority that oftentimes is a critical piece of overall performance management. How am I doing executing on my priority at this given point in time? And our belief system in resultants is we're big fans of employee-led performance management. Let the team member tell you how he or she feels like they're doing and then offer them your take on that. My experience is that oftentimes high-performing team members will be much harder on themselves than we ever are as a good, fair leader or manager. One of the things I notice, I call it the quiet room. When there's a big old fat elephant in the room, nobody is willing or able to speak up and call it out. People hiding in the weeds and not willing to disagree with one another. It's a silo mentality which feeds a quiet room. Well, that's Patty's responsibility. That's not my responsibility. So I'm going to sit here on my hands and, she can get called out on that. It's a siloed mentality. There's not a cohesiveness of a team, a leadership team or a departmental team. So that's the silent room. That's a real clear sign. It's a complete lack of clarity. Not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. Who exactly am I supposed to report to, Chad? I report to George one day and Susan the next day and expect to do a lot of things in a couple different departments, and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to focus on or how much. So it's a lack of clarity around expectations. So those are two real clear signs. I mean, if you're thinking about a data piece of it, the data points is turnover. If you get churn, especially high performers, if high performers feel like they're set up to lose, they're not going to stick around for very long. They're going to find a situation where they feel like they can thrive and win. everybody intellectually understands that. Oh yeah, Chad, that's important. That's important. And when I say, what are you doing about it? What does that look like? How are you working to really have a healthy people segment of in your company, in your business operating system? The concepts aren't that tough to understand, but it's what's being done. What's being done to shift, to fix, to coach, to change, to treat. I'd love to chat with owners, even if we never have a chance to work together, have a conversation with you around what are those things that I see companies do when they have a strong, healthy people component to their business. What are those best practice? How do we work with companies to help them make changes, make meaningful change that will create a stronger, healthier organization populated by people who get to do what they really believe in and get to do what they do best every day, have a clear understanding of what good looks like. And that's powerful when that happens. Love to chat with you about that.